Hello, my name is Sydney Maximetz. Today I'm going to be doing a presentation on Chapter 6. It'll be a summary and it'll also be some terminology. So to begin, Chapter 6 covers the Coordinated Management of Meaning, also known as CMM. According to Griffin in 2012, this is basically about the conversations that we have today that create our social reality for tomorrow. This is kind of common to what we've heard about with our actions that we do today affect our future, except it's going to be with our words and they'll affect our social reality of tomorrow. So here are some ideas in terminology that is based through CMM. According to Griffin in 2012, this term is called strange loop, and it is basically an unwanted repetitive communication pattern. A good example of this would be whenever I was a child, I had a bad habit of saying how come instead of saying why, and my dad tried to break this habit because he didn't think it was proper. And so it was kind of like a repetitive communication pattern that I kept doing that wasn't proper. The next term is the mediator communication. According to Griffin in 2012, this is basically focusing on the enactments of episodes, relationships, identities, and cultural patterns, and this is common with therapists, mediators, social workers, and teachers. The next term is dialogic communication. So basically what this is, according to Griffin in 2012, is that it is a way of talking that makes others want to listen and then in return speak. So this is really important if you're wanting to have an interactive conversation, and it's also really important for leaders as well. So the next term is social constructionist. Basically what this is, according to Griffin in 2012, is that it refers to the people who support the CMM theory, which is basically, as aforementioned, it is the creation of our own social realities through our conversations. The next term is logical force. It's basically, according to Griffin, it is feeling trapped or forcibly obligated to respond in a certain way. So a good example of this would be whenever your mom comes home and she asks your older siblings if they were nice to you, and your older siblings turn and give you a look that says, you better tell her yes. The next term is reflexivity. According to Griffin, this is kind of like the realization that our effects actually have actions that come back to us and actually affect us. So a good example of this would be kind of like an intense version of I'm rubber, you're glue. So basically the phrase is I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off of me back to you. And instead of it bouncing back to a specific person, it affects our social environments instead. The next term is hierarchy of meaning. According to Griffin, this is kind of like the key context that directs one's exact meaning in a conversation. So the next term is speech act. According to Griffin in 2012, this is basically a primary building block that's used in conversation that kind of sets the environment or the tone that people make. So an example of this would be kind of like in movies whenever there's the school bully and he'll go up to the protagonist and he'll say to meet him at the playground at recess tomorrow. He kind of sets the tone inciting a threat. So you kind of have an idea of how it's going to go and how the environment has changed. The next term is episode. According to Griffin in 2012, this is the main event that takes place in like a context of a story. So for example, tomorrow if I tell someone that I did a presentation yesterday, the summary of the presentation that I'm doing right now, that would be the episode. Some more terms that were listed along with episode would be relationship, which is basically a bond between people, identity, which is your self-image, and then culture, which is your social environmental values. The next term is coordination. Basically, this is, according to Griffin in 2012, this is an attempt to work together for the greater good despite having different beliefs or agreements. So a good example of this would be if, like in the movie plot, the bad guys and the good guys team up because there's a new villain that's even worse than the original bad guys. So the next term is cosmopolitan communication. According to Griffin in 2012, this is the ability to work with others despite having different values and beliefs, and you don't try to influence them or change their beliefs. An example of this would be Thanksgiving politics. So basically, you know, we all have family that has conflicting political opinions than us. However, on Thanksgiving, you know, it's a holiday with family, so you're going to sit down and you're going to enjoy Thanksgiving without trying to push it or change their beliefs. So the next term is narrow ridge. According to Griffin in 2012, this is basically standing your own ground while also being open to listening to others' beliefs. So an example of this would be my older brother's girlfriend. She used to have people of different beliefs that would come and knock on her door and try to invite her to their church. And although she held different beliefs, she was still willing to hear them out and have a conversation with them. So finally, we're down to the 3 theories and 3 appraisals. So basically, the first one is interpretive theory. In CMM, actually, it promotes a better understanding of people, so it works really well with an interpretive theory. With critical theory, it actually doesn't work too well because with CMM, there isn't exactly like power that's being used in communication. So that's really crucial to have with critical theory. So there's a lot of scholars who don't think that it would be considered a part of critical theory. And finally, we have practical theory. So there's a lot of people who do have support for CMM within practical theory. However, it doesn't have an actual usefulness, I guess. So it wouldn't be considered a part of practical theory. So to conclude, with CMM, it's really interesting. I really enjoyed learning about it. I think that it's awesome with interpretive theory. And I hope that, it'll be supported through practical theory, even though it doesn't have an exact usefulness, I still find usefulness in it. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.